You need to eat it all so you can get better quicker.
I know, but like I told you yesterday, your mom's soup tastes a little odd this time around.
Oh, she probably put some herbs. Come on, eat it all.
No, I'm tired now.
Fine, I'll save it for later.
My name is Jessie, and I'm 28 years old. I was married to my husband Henry, 31 years of age, for a little over a year when I began to realize that our whole marriage was built on a lie. Our relationship started out like a simple fairy tale. We bumped into each other at a local coffee shop and instantly hit it off because we had so many things in common. It felt like our destinies were meant to cross paths. He would take me on nice dates, make romantic gestures all around, and really bring me into his world. His mother and I got along very well, or so I thought. The person I grew closest to from within his family was his sister Destiny. Ironic, right? I saw Henry almost every single day, and I never got sick of him. We never fought and never got on each other's nerves. So when he popped the question, after only 2.5 months of dating, I said yes. We got married that spring, and I thought my life was near perfect. Perfect family, perfect husband, perfect house, and a perfect job. I was my own boss as I was building a fashion line. I started my business at 19, and I was still going strong from hiring outside vendors to help distribute and even going as far as being able to afford a personal assistant. Henry owned a few gas stations, but he didn't like talking about his job. He said it was far more boring than mine, so I let it be. There's one thing I forgot to mention, and it was because this information is still hard to swallow. My husband was married before meeting me. My sister in law was the one who told me after 6 months of my marriage to her brother. We were drinking wine and catching up one Friday night when she told me about Henry's past. What? Why didn't Henry or you tell me about her sooner? Well, I thought you knew. I only mention her now because her death anniversary is coming up. I'm surprised Henry never brought her up. She died? Yeah, a little over a year after their wedding day. Her death was a bit of a shock. Perhaps it was too hard for him to talk about her. Maybe. I brought it up to my husband when we got ready to sleep that night. His face grew pale. He sat on the side of the bed and buried his face in his hands. I could barely understand him when he said,
I'm so sorry. I didn't tell you sooner. She, Christina was my everything. It's hard to talk about her. Sometimes I just want to forget that she ever existed.
"It's okay, honey. I'm sorry for your loss. You don't have to talk about her if you don't want to. And I was just curious why you never brought her up."
I loved her. That's it. She died. And we could never figure out why.
I left the conversation at that as I could tell it was a touchy subject for him. Sometimes I forgot his wife existed because we never spoke about her again. When I tried to bring her up to Destiny, she brushed me off. I was maybe a little confused by her now different attitude about Christina. But I decided that maybe this was a death too close to home to talk about it openly. A few months later, Henry and I's anniversary was coming up. I was excited. My mother in law Lisa was making food, and the extended family was joining us. My mother in law made the best meals known to humankind. I could rave about her dishes in every sense. She made this particular type of soup with chicken, carrots, potatoes, and cabbage. It was a bowl full of flavor. She made a special bowl for me. My eyes lit up at her kindness. She knew how much I would love her soup. "I made it, especially for you. So don't share." Lisa giggled. She gave me a tight squeeze and joined the rest of the party. It tasted delicious as well. and I reveled in the yum. But by the third bite, I began to focus on the aftertaste. I couldn't place what it was, and frankly, I didn't care at that moment because it wasn't that noticeable. I figured she just added a new ingredient. I went the rest of the night mingling with the family, eating a lot of food and drinking a lot of wine. Hey, it was my 1 year anniversary. By the end of the night, Henry closed the night with a lovely speech. He raised his cup to propose a toast.
To my wife, Jessie, a young, successful, beautiful, and fantastic woman. I can't wait to spend my entire life with you. Cheers.
We all drank to that, and I couldn't help but shed a tear. He was indeed the best man I knew, or so I thought. The next day, I woke up full hungover and borderline on being sick. I overdid it with the food and festivities. I took it easy that day, allowing my body to rest and lounge around the house. When Henry came home from work, he had a large container with him with what looked like to be soup.
Feeling any better?
A little bit, I guess. What's that you got there?
Oh, I told my mom you weren't feeling too good. She was kind enough to make you a batch of your favorite soup.
Oh, goodness, she's so sweet. I'll have to call her later to thank her. I got up from the couch and began preparing myself a serving. Like yesterday, the soup tasted absolutely delicious, but still, there was this aftertaste that I couldn't place. Maybe I became sick before the party? But nothing else tastes differently except for the soup. I should have known that something was off. As the days went by, I only got sicker and sicker. My throat had swollen, I had sniffles and a horrible cough. The only thing I was able to eat was my mother-in-law's soup. She kept making batch after batch, and I ate it willingly. I went to the doctor after a week, but they told me it must just be a bug. All signs pointed to this fact, so I went home with over-the-counter medicine. I still had a business to run for my fashion line, so I mustered the courage to get out of the bed to go to the office. I usually would bring lunch to work, but I felt no appetite and I honestly was growing sick of my mother-in-law's soup. My assistant Lana was running things as smoothly as she could while I was away. She was helpful as she debriefed me on everything that I had missed. When no one came around, she scooped some ramen from the local restaurant down the street. I decided, why not try something different? It tasted wonderful, and guess what? No aftertaste. I ate it gratefully, and by the end of the day, I felt slightly better, but I still had a horrible cough and a sore throat. When I got home, my husband was a little mad that I had gone out because of my illness. Honey, I have a business to run. I can't just let it run.
You need more rest.
Fresh air is a good thing, okay?
Change into something comfortable and I'll make you something to eat.
I did what I was told. I waited in the living room for my meal. As Henry turned the corner into the living room, I could smell the bowl, and my stomach began to growl unpleasantly. It was his mother's chicken soup. I don't want to eat that.
Why not?
It tastes funky.
It's because you're sick. She just made a fresh batch and dropped it off before you came home.
Oh, all right. I took the bowl and took a spoonful to my mouth. Again, there was a weird aftertaste, more potent than before, almost chemically. Henry, I'm telling you, it tastes odd. Here, try a bite. I motioned for him to take the bowl, but he brushed it off.
You must want me to get sick if you want me to eat after you. He chuckled. I'll take a bite from the container.
He exited to the kitchen, and after a few minutes, he yelled back,
It tastes good to me.
Maybe my taste buds were going out? The next day, I woke up worse than before, and there was no way I was going to be able to make it to the office. Henry was getting ready for work when he said,
You need to eat it all so you can get better quicker.
I know, but like I told you yesterday, your mom's soup tastes a little odd this time around.
She probably put some herbs. Go on, eat it all.
No, I'm tired now.
Fine, I'll save it for later.
He grabbed the bowl and went to the kitchen to save it for later. He returned to our bedroom to kiss me on the forehead.
Rest, okay?
I nodded obediently. Later that day, Destiny came over to visit. I was pleased to see her. I missed her very much as we spent much time together outside of family functions. Are you feeling any better? I shook my head. I thought I was, but if I'm being honest, no, not really. She began to frown and lean further into the couch. I'll be okay. The doctor said it must be a bug going around. I feel like it's Christina all over again. She croaked. Was she about to cry? What do you mean? I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. Why did you mention her? She took a long sigh, clutching at the necklace around her neck. I grew close with Christina before she passed. Then she died, out of nowhere. She had a slight cold, and it only grew worse and worse. The autopsy said she died from the flu. I began to feel even worse. What was going on? Look, I shouldn't have said anything. Why didn't you tell me she was sick before? As I said, it was random how she died. You're right, this could just be a coincidence. Maybe. After she left, I began to panic. Was I dying? The doctors told me I didn't have the flu or anything, that it was just a cold, a long cold. Lisa called me around the afternoon to check up on me. How are you feeling, sweetheart? I'm okay. I could be better. I'm sorry to hear that. Have you been eating the soup? Yes, but it doesn't feel like it's doing the trick. By the way, did you change the recipe? Yeah. She stuttered. I knew you were sick, so I added some things that could lessen the symptoms. It tasted differently since before I was sick. Maybe you've been sicker longer than you realized, poor dear. I hope you feel better to go to the church potluck. They awarded me the Citizen of the Week. Oh, how wonderful. I should be better by then, right? High hopes here. That's my girl. Henry is coming by for the soup. I'll make sure not to add so much lemon. I think that's why it's been tasting a little different. It's okay, Lisa. I think I'm good with the soup. Nonsense. I've already made a batch. I promise this one will be better. Henry had 3 large containers full of soup when he came home from work. She was right. It didn't have a strong aftertaste. It was still there, faintly, as if it was the first time I had eaten it on my anniversary. It was 8 p.m. when Henry suggested I go to bed early to rest. But I was restless in bed. I tossed and turned, and by the time I looked at the clock, it was 11 p.m. Henry had not come to bed yet. I sneakily creeped out of bed, as I didn't want him to know I was also awake. By the staircase, I could hear Henry's voice. It was quiet. He must be on the phone.
I don't think she suspects anything. It's a good thing you put a little less in this batch. You think by next week she'll be done? Mom, I can't handle it anymore. I just want it to be over. I know, patience. And then we will be secure with the money.
My stomach turned. Did what? I was stunned. Shocked at where I stood, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Was I hallucinating? I had to be. I went back to my room contemplating my next move. What could I do? Call the police? And then it hit me. Henry and his mother must have killed Christina. For what? What purpose? For money? All of this torture and sickness for money? They were horrible, vile people. They deserved worse than jail. They deserved humiliation, pain, and fear. I forced myself to sleep and woke up with a plan. All I felt was anger. I thought I found the love of my life. Instead, I fell in love with a murderer. He didn't even have the decency to kill me in my sleep. He made his mom make me soup to keep the illness from doing the deed. What a coward! It was there that morning I concocted a plan. I made sure to take some soup out of the container and flush it down the toilet to make it appear like I ate some. I messaged Lisa asking for more soup, and she did, like the amazing mother in law she was. When Sunday rolled around, I acted like I was too sick to go, so my husband went to the church celebration without me. Instead, I got out of bed feeling already better because I hadn't eaten the soup in 3 days. I grabbed the containers full of soup and headed to the church. My husband was shocked to see. I just smiled, clutching my large tote bag filled with soup. As the sermon continued, I placed the containers next to the rest of the food. This was risky, but once the potluck begins, I'll reveal what I bought. At the end of the service, they invited my mother-in-law to the stage. Lisa was rather grateful for this award. She scanned the crowd, and I swear she swallowed loudly when she saw me. She smiled at me as if she was glad to see me. "Thank you all for this award. I only do what I think is right. Let's get to eat." Everyone filed down in lines for the food. I was the first one as I sat in the back. "Hey everyone, don't forget to take a bowl of my mother-in-law's soup. It's been nursing me back to health, so I bought a batch of it." An older lady, Margaret, who was my mother-in-law's close friend, said, "Sounds delicious."
Darling, what are you doing here?
I wanted to be a supporting daughter-in-law. I aspire to be an outstanding citizen like your mom. After all, sharing is caring. "Oh, thanks, Jessie. I've missed my mom's soup. She never makes it for me anymore. I'm glad you're feeling better." "No, that was for Jessie," Lisa shouted from the stage, walking fast in our direction. "What's the matter, Lisa? There are 2 containers. I'm sure there will be some left over for her." Yes, Lisa, what's wrong?" I asked innocently. Amidst the commotion, the pastor passed all of us and began serving himself food, including the soup.
Smells yummy.
He took a spoonful, and before he lifted it to his lips, Lisa slapped the bowl out of his hand.
What's the matter with you?
I. By that time, there was a crowd surrounding us. There was no hiding and no more lying. "Pastor, I have something to confess." Lisa spilled her guts about trying to poison me. Henry was already by the door trying to escape her confession when the altar boys gathered around and grabbed him from leaving. They planned to kill me slowly with a mixture of arsenic and hyaluronic acid. With a small percentage, it would be a bit impossible to figure out my death had I perished. They killed Christina for her money in a similar way. They waited a year to ensure that it appeared unnoticeable that they were out for me. Henry had stalked me a few months before introducing himself to me. That wasn't even the worst part. He never owned multiple gas stations. He lived off Christina's inheritance and worked as a gas station clerk. The family name was ruined. No one came to their defense, not even Destiny. How could anyone? They heard a live confession from the killers themselves, and that's exactly what I wanted to happen. The 2 went straight to prison with little help from their lawyers, serving attempted murder in the 1st degree. And Christina's case was reopened for investigation. Both have